The Samsung Galaxy Flip 4 after 6 months of use. I wanted to take a look back in this long-term review because a lot of the attention early on when this phone came out went to the Fold 4, and that's because, at least to me, it was such a huge improvement over the Fold 3, some of the things that they've done, and this was just kind of minor upgrades from the Flip 3. But the things that they did do to the Flip 4, the things that they added and the things that they shored up and improved on really changed the overall experience and what you could do with a Flip 4. And those are the things that I wanted to focus on here. There are three main areas that I want to cover. Number one is performance. Number two is battery life. And then build quality and the Hinge improvements that they made. Let's talk performance on the Flip 4. Running One UI 5.1, which is the best optimized software on Android right now. It's kind of hard to debate that because of how smoothly this is running. And until the S23 Ultra came out, this was the smoothest experience I was having on the Android side. Absolutely buttery. 120 hertz refresh rate, all the rest of it. Twitter scroll, which you know is a trouble on a lot of Android platforms. Really nice. Overall, just a good experience. The no hiccups, no hangups. The software was running really well. And while the Flip 3 performance is by no means a dog, it was really good as well. This took it up a notch, and you could really tell the enhancements that they made both on the hardware side and the software side. Still the 8 gigs of RAM, but a really full functioning flagship for a decent price. We're going to talk about price a little bit later on, but for what you get and what they've put into it, I really like the performance. You're never going to be lacking on the game side or anything that you want to do, and that smoothness that sometimes you weren't always getting with One UI is absolutely good here. The other part of that, because of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Plus, you're getting the improvements to battery life. Remember, the Flip 3 was running at what? 3.5, 4 hours. If you were lucky, really lucky, towards the end, it went back to kind of 3.5. I'm not getting the outsized battery that I was originally with the Flip 4. I was getting like 6.5, 7 hours of screen on time when I first got it, which was really getting up there, and I figured that wouldn't last. With software updates, I'm still getting 5.5, 6 hours of screen on time, which is great, because unlike the Flip 3, where you really had to make a conscious effort and decision to kind of temper your cell phone usage and use it not necessarily as a disconnect device, but kind of have it be a conscious decision to check that Instagram feed for the 20th time or look up that Facebook feed for the 10th time today, because you'd literally be sitting there watching your battery drain away, even just on idle. So that's something that you had to contend with because of the Snapdragon 888, because of the inefficiencies there. You really had a battle and struggle with battery life. That you don't have to do here. 5.5, 6 hours of screen on time is more than enough for most people. You want to top it off during the day at some point, you could do that. But for most consumers that are going to be getting this, especially since this appeals to not only enthusiasts who want a folding device for a relatively decent price, but people who are coming from an iPhone, switching over. We did that video, I'll link it at the end. People who have switched over to the Flip 4 from an iPhone because of just it's a cool factor. You do feel like you're holding a piece of an impressive piece of technology in your hand, something new, something exciting, something the iPhone hasn't been for years. So there's a lot of switch over here. This is the new phone, the popular phone, the cool phone to have. So you don't have to limit your usage anymore. You could use it as hard as for the most part as you do an iPhone. You're not getting 10 hours of screen on time, but you could get through most of your day and not have an issue and not have to decide whether you want to use your device or not. The build quality is a really nice one to me. I'm going to focus on the Hinge. The device is just as nice and thin as last year, really sharp. I love the design. I love the feel of it. I love the build quality. But the Hinge, after 6 months, Flip 3 owners, come on, be honest with me, level with me. How many of you could keep your phone there at 6 months? Okay? That thing was flopping over. You get it to about here, and that Flip 3 wanted to go all the way down without any support. Is that the most important Hinge mode to have it in here? Is there any particular case use that you'd be doing there? No, of course not. But despite there not being a use case, it is nice to know that the Hinge is sturdy this year, and it does lend an air of confidence there that perhaps last year at this time it was wearing a little thin for us. The durability didn't feel quite the same last year as it does this year, and I do believe that's in part to the improved Hinge. And unlike last year, the toughest parts of the Hinge were from here to here. This year, it feels like that's the easiest part of the hinge, and it gets stiffer as you go down towards closed. And I like that. I like that change. I think it adds a little bit more, like I said, of confidence there. Screen cleaning is important with this, as it was last year, because of those plastic screen protectors they have on there and that film that they got. If you're in sunlight or outdoors, and this is the same thing with the Fold 4 and all the way down, all these folds so far, and flips have had this issue, keep a microfiber on you. Keep one of those. I don't want to say the alcohol wipes. That might be a little harsh. You could use them, but there's these non-alcoholic kind of cleaning wipes that you could use as well that are for electronics and lenses and stuff like that that are good. I think Zeiss makes them. But you keep it clean, because if there are smudges or fingerprints on here, it becomes very hard to see this device in direct sunlight, and you'll notice that right away. You don't see a lot of discounts on the Flip 4. You really don't. You know, Samsung is having their spring sale thing this week, and you'll see $300, $400 off on the Fold 4. And you don't see that on the Flip 4. And I think that's because, unlike a lot of the Samsung products that are out there, this one's actually priced correctly. If you're honest with yourself and you think about what you get, flagship level specs, don't talk to me about the camera, okay? The camera is perfectly fine, plus with One UI 5.1 and the Snapdragon high-powered in there, you're still getting all the computational stuff that Samsung puts it in anyway. So that's going to be doing a lot of the processing power to make your images look better. So is it not a flagship level camera? Yeah, maybe not. But where you fitting that? Where you fitting the periscope zoom? Where you fitting a lot of the stuff that they put in here? Because you still need a display in here. You still need all the electronics. Don't forget, it's split in two, essentially. It's a phone that's got guts on both sides. There's a lot that goes into making this, and I don't think it's realistic to have a flagship level. Look, this is flagship level, okay? The other stuff that people want camera-wise, I don't think that's realistic. But if you're honest with yourself, it's fine. But you get that flagship experience in a new technology that's pretty cool. Plus, you get all the additional benefits of, it's nice to be able to have a full-sized, compromise-free phone fit in the palm of your hand. Nice and compact when you want to put it in your pocket or a bag or transport it around, but you're not limited in any way with screen size for scrolling for games or anything like that. It opens up to a full, regular slab smartphone experience. But then it compacts down into this. And nothing will beat getting done with a phone call or a particularly annoying text and giving it one of these and being done with it. That's cathartic on multiple levels. So, screen protector, like I said, is good. I like the placement. They've pulled it away from the hinge a little bit. I think that's to help a couple different things, the dust that gets under it, but also not peel up as much. There are still people I see online with the peel, with having to have their screen protector replaced with Samsung. I get it. That's going to be the growing pains of this technology, but you weigh that against what you get and how cool it is to have something like this in your pocket. And if you're an enthusiast, even if you're not, those Samsung experience stores are all over the place now, in malls and stuff, especially if you're in a metropolitan area or near one. So you go in, you get it replaced. I hear it's a relatively painless procedure, and you go on your way, and you're still using your really cool phone. Linked to Windows, but no DeX. They say that's a heat dissipation thing. I know that's, for a lot of Samsung fans, that's a major issue. For me, it's really not, but I can understand why a lot of people love using their DeX, especially on something like this, was a small phone. You go ahead and you put it whatever, and you use it wirelessly, and you don't have to open it up, and you can kind of take advantage of the larger display. The outer display I love. I like the size of it. I know there are rumors that on the Flip 5 and other phones, you can see the Moto, the Razr this year, and a couple of the other, the Oppos from overseas, the kind of the bigger screens on the outer display. That's fine. I like using this for what it's used for. You could go along, you could set a timer, that's nice. You could check your calendar, check the weather, check notifications, check messages, so you can decide whether you have to open the device up or not. But for me, this works just fine. Overall, great improvements. Still a great device. You still got another 6 months. Link will be in the description. Does directly help the channel if you're looking to pick one up. But I think they're priced right. They're built well. You're not going to be missing a whole heck of a lot if you're honest with yourselves about what you need. And it's just a really cool thing to hold a piece of technology now, especially in the smartphone market that seems saturated with kind of the same old, that you get something that really feels like the future in the palm of your hand. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.